On their hillside, Valerie and Kirk Walden can pick their perspectives. They waken to a view of Lake Austin and the birds heading for breakfast. As the sun warms up, countless pollinators dash to drifts of flowers. Not a drop of rainfall is lost in its slow trickle along dry creek beds.
We bought the property in 2011. It was completely raised. There was nothing on it. The house that had been here had mold, it had been torn down, and the owners had abandoned the property. So it was completely overgrown. Nobody had touched anything.
A Travis County master gardener, Kirk was up for the new challenge.
I was a gardener sort of by default. The place we moved to when we first moved to Austin, which was 17 years ago now, had no landscaping at all. They'd put a circular drive in, and that was it. There was nothing else there. So over the course of about 12 years, I made a lot of mistakes. And I figured that I finally got to the point where I could say, all right, this works and this works and this works, but I thought I ought to learn what really was going to work for the long term.
Annie Gillespie and Rachel Beavers of Botanical Concerns engineered tiered layers on the slope.
They wanted to make it look more like the hill country as much as we possibly could. So we didn't want flat surfaces and cut and fill and things like that. We wanted to look natural. But also, it is integral to the design of the pond and the pool. The pond is patterned after the pond at the Wildflower Center. That then feeds into the pool, and the berm allows it to look like a natural fall. You'll see not only does the water come down into the pond, but it also comes from the side into the pond as if it were coming from limestone rock.
They promoted depth with layers of structural grasses and succulents, shrubby trees, perennials, and ground covers. To start plants off right, they brought in several yards of good soil and compost. And they picked plants that don't mind the limestone bed underneath. Across the seasons, evergreen textures mingle flair and form. Always there's something fragrant and something in bloom to please them and the wildlife.
What we try to do there is make it colorful at various times of the season, but not large. We don't want to block the view, we want to complement the view. So I want to draw your eye out there. That's why you see the bird of paradise there is relatively small and short, but wide. And so it provides lots of color without blocking the view. It's augmented by some agave. I've got silver pony's foot out there to make it for interest. That's a smoke tree. It got too tall. It began to get in the way of the view, so we took a chance and did a cut on it and cut it back after its first year, and now it's turned into more of a bush. I've got more of the color and less of the height. So we're going to trim it back now on a regular basis. One of the design elements that isn't obvious is the way the fencing is done. You don't feel like you're in a backyard here, but there's a fence surrounding this whole place so the deer can't get back here. And it's out of view for most of the property. So it makes you feel like, again, you're in the hill country in a natural state, not in somebody's backyard.
A dry creek bed stretches below to keep rainfall from racing down the hillside. Hand-picked Oklahoma limestone leads from the house to the pool garden. They installed low water use Palisade zoysia since their energetic dogs, Cooper and Belhaven, need lots of family runtime. Raised beds extend along the back porch.
It meets building code so that I don't have to have any railings here. There's a certain drop-off, less than 30 inches. You don't have to have a railing. So it opens the property as well as provides the greenery. We learned a lot here with this bed. It took us a couple of years to do, or a year and a half to do it. This gets only morning sun and mostly at the far end. So the plants, as you move from one end to the other, have to be more shade tolerant. So it's almost like a continuum. At the very far end, I have a firecracker fern that loves the full sun. By the time I get down here, down at this very end, I've got oak leaf hydrangeas, which want mostly shade.
Near the back gate, a mountain laurel partially shades columbines and bear's breech.
It's a woodland's edge plant. It wants some of the sun and some of the shade. So it wants real sun, not just filtered sun, real sun, but it also wants shade. And it'll live through the summer. It'll get flat, and if you keep it cut, keep the dead things cut, it will be acceptable. You don't cut it down to zero. You don't cut everything off of it.
In front, a dry creek bed directs water away from the house and foundation. A curbside terrace prevents erosion. Since the front isn't fenced, the Waldens go for plants that stand a chance against deer. A casual privacy screen of understory silvery pineapple guavas is fairly resistant. The Waldens magnify a few spaces with crafted art. This beam was actually a reject from an entrance archway. Valerie saw its potential as a 360 bridge shout-out. As an artist, Valerie doesn't even have to leave home for inspiration.
From her studio, which we were fortunate enough to be able to incorporate into the house when we built it, she can look out and see almost everything in the backyard, including this view. So even if she didn't go anywhere, she'd have plenty to paint.
She keeps her camera handy to document daily wonders. Even though birds find lots to eat in the garden, Kirk's feeders on pulleys guarantee good photo ops. Even though this garden is big on diversity, its uncluttered appeal is thanks to clustering, with a few standouts thrown in. Sure, it needs manicuring between bloom cycles and seasons, but don't we all?
All of these plants are the kind of thing that anybody in Austin can put in their yard. It's not the kind of plant that, I don't have any plants here that require coddling, that require special soil or special fertilizers or special treatments. These are all native and well-adapted plants, and anybody could do it.